Alright guys, page 2 of the study guide. I'm going to try to do this one a little bit faster. So number 9, does g of x have a minimum or maximum? And what are the coordinates of the vertex? So this function, it's already in vertex form. That's pretty nice. Now, because of this negative, because of that negative, that means my graph is going to be an upside down u. If it's an upside down u, the highest point, it's called the maximum. So this graph is going to have a maximum because it's an upside down u. Now the vertex, remember, this number represents my up and down shift. That's pretty much my y value. My y value is going to be -4. Now the positive sits here represents my left and right shift. Remember, this is a tricky one. This is the one, if it's positive, it'll change to negative. So it'll be -6. That's number 9. Number 10, rewrite the function in vertex form by completing the square. So remember, this is where I let f of x just be y equals x squared minus its x plus 11. I did nothing, just change the f of x to y. Step 2, subtract 11 to both sides. I'm left with y minus 11 is equal to x squared minus 6x. That's it. I subtracted 11 from both sides. The next step, take the 6. It's okay if you take the negative, the positive, doesn't really matter. 6, cut it in half, and raise it to the second power. 6 divided by 2, that's 3. And 3 squared is 9. So this 9, I'm going to add 9 to both sides. I'm going to be plus 9, and it's going to be a plus 9 here as well. Now, I'm going to factor this side, and I'm going to simplify this side. 9 minus 11, that is y, and 9 minus 11, that's -2, equals, now this side I'm going to factor this side. Two numbers that when multiplied together give me 9, and when added give me -6. Well, -3 times -3. -3 times -3. -3 times -3, it's +9, and -3 and -3 is -6. So, great. Almost done. I'm going to take the y minus 2 equals. Now, because there's 2 of these, I can make one of them. It's -3, and just raise it to the second power. Lastly, leave y by itself, add 2 to both sides. That leaves me with the vertex form to be y equals x minus 3 squared plus the 2. That's it. B, does the function have a minimum or a maximum? And what are the coordinates of the vertex? Here's my vertex form. It's positive. That means it's going to be an upside up u. If it's upside up, this is the vertex, and the vertex is at a minimum. It's going to be a minimum. And the vertex, that's my y value, +2. And my x value, it's -3, so my x value is going to be +3. There's my vertex at 3, 2. The next one, number 11, it says the equation h of x equals that. It gives the height h. So pretty much that's my height, my y value pretty much. In feet of a kangaroo jumping as a function of time in t seconds. So t will be like my x-axis, and it represents time. What is the maximum height of that the kangaroo reaches? And route your answer to the nearest tenth. So this one, number 11, it's a little bit more complicated. And what I'll do is I'm going to remove from the test any question that looks like number 11. And I'm not sure if the test actually even has it. I really doubt it. I'm not going to have this question on the test. All right, let's go to number 12. The cross-section of a boat can be modeled by the equation. Here's the equation, here's my boat, where x and y are measured in feet. There's the deck, the distance from pretty much this point to this point. Now determine the width of the boat. We're trying to determine the length from here to here. Justify solutions using units. So what I recommend is let's take this graph, let's take this equation, let's set it into factor form. What's two numbers that will multiply together give me positive 27, and when added give me negative 12. Let's see, 27, that could be 9 times 3. 9 times 3 definitely gives me 27. But I would say 9 has to be negative, and 3 also has to be negative. Negative 9 times negative 3, positive 27, and negative 9 and negative 3 gives me negative 12. So that's great. That means the factor form of this, I can rewrite it as x minus 9, and it's minus 9 and it's minus 3. Doesn't matter the order. So you get this. This is the factor form. Now, if in my graph, let's say this was my graph here, this is my x-axis here. These points here represent my zeros. The zeros of this, because this is a factor form, the zeros will pretty much be positive 3 and positive 9. So this, let's say this is positive 3 and this is positive 9. What's the distance from 3 to 9? It's going to be 6. Also determining the width of the boat, the width will be 6 feet. 6 feet, because that is the distance from 3 to 9. It's 6 feet. Now determining the depth of the boat. That's pretty much finding the distance from the middle all the way to the bottom. Well, what's the point at the middle? If it goes from 3 to 9, the point in the middle, what's the number between 3 and 9? What's the number between 3 and 9? That's a good question. Well, it goes from 3 and it goes 6 units up. So pretty much I'll have to go 3 units. 1, 2, and 3 units to get to 6. And then 7, 8, 9. That means 6 is in the middle. Well, I'm going to take this 6 and I'm going to put it into my x values. Remember, this 6, it's not this 6. This 6, it's the length from here to here. Okay? But this 6 represents the middle of the deck. All right? Because that's where I can get the highest point. This point. So whatever the length I get from here to here, that'll be the width of my boat. So 6 is my x value. So I'm going to put my 6 into the original equation. So I can do that, or I can also put the 6's in here. It doesn't really matter where I put the 6 because this is the same thing as this. I'm going to put it in here just so I can have a change in something. Y equals 6 minus 3 times 6 minus 9. Simplify this. 6 minus 3, that is positive 3. 6 minus 9, 9 is bigger, so that means it's going to be negative 3. And 3 times negative 3, that's negative 9. This is negative 9, but it's length. So we know it's 9 units, it's length. So that means the length is 9 units. It doesn't really have to be negative. We just know that the length is 9 units. So the length is 9 units. 9 units. And that's it for page 2.